And get started. Welcome to another Zoom call. It is the 3rd of August 2022. I think this month marks the 6th or the 7th year we've been doing these Zoom calls. And I think we may have missed 4. That's pretty good stats there. And now we've added a second Zoom call. So always a reminder, between Zoom calls and such, look for the on our website, not on our member site, but on our website, you can search for questions that you might have that might already have blog posts. And I hope that everybody on this call is on our membership site because that's where you should be submitting questions. So on the membership pages, I really apologize. I have a really bad cold. So on the membership pages, that's where you can submit questions. Everybody's doing a good job of doing that lately. So submit your questions on there and those will make sure that we get them. Remember, we've added another Zoom call with Ann. So questions that come in, Ann may answer them and they will be recorded as they have been, and they are put up on the membership site as well. If you have a question specifically for Ann, just to say Ann in the question box, Ann, please answer this. Or specifically for me, you could say, Dr. Connors, please answer this. And we'll both do our best. All right, let's jump to the questions. To keep family happy, to know where my cancer is at, trying to balance family and health out is really hard. Yeah, it certainly is. You pulled in lots of different directions. As I do respect their emotions, but medical is not my first choice. So lots of emotions are going wild. You do not have to post this part. Well, I'm sorry. I copied and pasted this whole thing. This first time I'm reading this. So, but I think everybody relates to that. You torn by, a spouse or a family member or your mother or father or sister or brother that's like, you need to go to the oncologist, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you're going to die. We have some videos on our blog post about how to deal with those kind of things. I made a video, and I think Michelle made a video, and so we have several blog posts on how to deal with the questions that you get on people, you're choosing a way of care that might be different. I've said this multiple times, and I write this in the book, that my belief is that a lot of people will push you down the path of standard of care, not because they necessarily believe in it, but because it absolves them of the responsibility to help you. Just go to the oncologist, because honestly, gave them truth serum, just go to the oncologist so then I don't have to worry about it. So if it doesn't work, well, you die, well, they did everything they can. And I don't have to think about it. I don't have to support you, really. I don't have to, study up on this. I don't have to help you make juices, or, it just absolves them of their responsibility. And there's a lot of guilt of family members when somebody they love is ill. And you see this with the elderly. You see children of, families, children will come and say, we need to just put mom in the nursing home. We just need to put mom this. We just need to do this. Just follow what the doctor said. Just get her on these medications. Usually it's the family member that did nothing to help mom for the last 15 years. It just is what it is. There's psychology that is around this that makes people feel better. If you're just doing what the oncologist said to do, then it just kind of takes away any responsibility on their part. We went to the Cancer Treatment Center of America with my breast tumor as large as it is. They put me on Femara. I have read and listened to lots of your information on this and wondered if the DIM products are comparable. So the DIM products and other aromatase inhibitors are very beneficial, But like I've said over and over again, nothing is going to compare to a drug that's going to shut down all your estrogen. Go back again to here and search, just start typing aromatase, and I have multiple articles on different aromatase inhibitors, natural aromatase inhibitors, that can help get rid of bad estrogens. Remember, you have over 33 different estrogen metabolites in your body all the time. And if you do a full estrogen, progesterone, androgen panel as a female, you're going to see there's normal levels of all these metabolites. And it's just the quote unquote bad estrogens that end up attaching to the estrogen receptors that can block apoptosis, causing you to have what's called a ER positive cancer. So the medical model is to just shut down all estrogen. It makes you feel lousy and gives you all sorts of side effects that a lot of women don't like. But yes, you can look at some of the DIM products. There's EstroClear, which is a bark lignin product that can be very beneficial. There's fermented soy products. We just came up with another DIM product that has calcium deglutarate and a couple other things in it. So there's many things that you could look at for that. But I'd suggest go back to the blogs. Is there something else that could help with the side effects if I do end up taking it? So if you take an estrogen blocker, you can have the side effects of being in complete menopause, and you will have hot flashes and not feeling well and no energy and some weight gain and all these kind of things. No, there really isn't anything that you can do to help with that. That's going to help tremendously, because the symptoms are because of estrogen just being tanked. And if you could give some estrogen stimulants, but then you're reversing what you're trying to do with the drug. So if you're going to choose to do something with the drug, then you can't really do that. You can use some adrenal support and adaptogens. So usually people that are on any type of hormone blocking drugs, whether it's males with prostate cancer on androgen deprivation therapy, or females on aromatase blocking drugs, any other estrogen blocking drugs, using adaptogens is really the first thing to go to, but it's not going to really make a giant mark in the symptoms. It can help with the fatigue and such, though. They also put me on Ibrance. So Ibrance is another daily chemotherapy drug that's become very popular in the last 5 years. Once again, I'm not impressed, but hoping this could be short term. We are having test results sent to you. I was hoping to wait till after the genetic testing came back. Anxiety is very high right now. Well, that's where the adaptogens will help. So think of adaptogenic herbs. So we have a CortaClear. That's a great adaptogen for what we're talking about here, and AdaptoClear. That's another great adaptogen. They're very different. They have different things in them. So you have to try some of these to see what's going to work for you. Seems matter what I take, I wake up around 2 or 3 and can't rest the mind to get back to sleep. So adaptogenic herbs are what I would suggest, and I can pull up some of those pictures for you as well. That might help. You just go to our store and search CortaClear. You'll see that it's a product that can be very helpful for this. So, oh, that didn't work. There. That's what it looks like. So CortaClear. Okay, I am having abdomen and hip pain so bad that last night I resorted to taking Tylenol, and an hour and a half later taking ibuprofen so I could get some sleep. I slept better than I have for the last year. Well, that's fantastic. I know these are bad for the liver and kidneys, so I usually stay away from them. I've tried the Rife for rotator cuff pain in the past and gotten no relief. And I run my Rife overnight programs while I sleep, so I can't really run pain programs then. Yeah, the Rife pain programs are very, very mixed results. I am wondering what I could use to control the pain in the future. I rebound, weight train, and walk for miles daily, as sitting still or trying to sleep is when it gets unbearable. You do, so if it's specific hip pain on one side, you do, I suggest you do want to kind of get to the cause of it. If the abdominal pain is from the cancer, that's one thing that then we know that that's what's going on. We want to make sure that hip pain, you want to see why. I always want to ask the question why first. So is the hip pain from something going on in the hip? That's a possibility, right? So getting an x-ray of the hip would be a good idea. Getting a scan of that area might be a good idea. I'm just giving some suggestions. There are some emotional ties to the hip. If you look up emotions to different parts of the area, the emotion of the hip is fear of moving forward. It's kind of you walking, your hip is involved with you moving forward. So think of some emotional pieces that might be tied to that as well. So that's a possibility. So you always want to be digging for the reason why. And yes, if a medication, over-the-counter medication is helping you, that's great. But again, Tylenol and ibuprofen, if you're going to do that on a daily basis, well, that can end up getting hard on your liver. But then you have to weigh that out with how much importance is there to getting a good night's sleep too. So taking Tylenol or ibuprofen on a regular basis where you're taking a lot of it can be problematic, but doing it on a symptomatic basis where it can help you once in a while, you gotta say, that could be a blessing too. I use a TrueRife every night and know that you only recommend that brand, but I'm considering buying a portable device called the Trinity. Biometis Trinity is the advanced effective wellness technology of multi-frequency synchronization. I like it because you can wear it during the day. Would that be okay to use the Rife at night and wear one with similar technology during the day, or would that be too much? No, you could certainly do that. I would be careful of false advertising that's out there. Mike at TrueRife tried to come out with a wearable device. I was trying to help him a little bit in that process. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. He did come out with a wearable device, but with testing, it just didn't penetrate the body, so it didn't really make a difference. If it's not penetrating the body, and it's not going to really help the person. So I don't think he even sells it anymore. So I just don't know the efficacy of some of these things. I've never tested that one. I don't know. Maybe it's great. So I'm not here to knock some other person's product. Maybe it's a great product. Give it a try. I would think that a wearable device might be better for biotoxins than for cancer. But hey, you could run it on parasites and things like that. That's always a side thing of what could be going on with cancer anyhow. So I would say if that's what you really feel led to, I don't think there's any problem. There certainly isn't a problem with doing too much of something, so with frequency. So I have bouts of swollen feet and ankles. The pain is so severe I can't walk. Is there anything I could do? Yeah, we talked about this, I think, last week or the week before too. Somebody else had this question. Again, remember, how do your feet and ankles drain? So swollen feet and ankles comes from fluid that's not draining back through the lymph system. So you always have movement of fluid through your body. Everything in your body is about movement. So when fluid is not moving, you have what's called stasis. So stasis of fluid is not getting back through the lymph system. And again, remember the lymph system is an open-ended capillary system that has one-way valves. So as you contract your muscles, the fluid squishes through those vessels and then can't get back down. And every time you contract your muscles, it squishes through and pushes it back up. Your lymph system are open-ended capillaries that then drain back into the venous system and then out back through the liver and through the kidneys for you to expel this waste. So typically, what do you do with swollen feet and ankles? You think of rest. So you're not standing on your feet where gravity is pulling the fluid down and being able to end up in your feet and ankles. So rest, elevation, and elevating your legs so that you have gravity working in your favor. And then some of the other things, ice can be helpful with this, but also what people forget is lymph moves by action of your muscles. So writing the alphabet with your toes, with your ankles. When you do stand up, do leg raisers, up on your toes, back down, up on your toes, back down. You have to contract your lower muscles of your lower leg, your gastrocnemius and your soleus muscles, and your anterior muscles of your lower leg. You just got to be doing some exercise. So if you're going to be up, it's worse thing to be just standing. It's better to be moving or walking or doing some little exercises. And then when you're down, try to get your feet up so you can get fluid, gravity helping move that fluid. TrueRife sells a sleep cover for the Rife machine. Is this item simply used to reduce the illumination of light, or does it provide protection from the blue light waves? It's just to really to block the light from the machine itself. You could do the same thing with a towel. So, but the sleep cover fits nicely over it and very neat. If the light is bothering you. Also, please address light sources while sleeping. Should a person sleep in a totally dark room? Is the light from clocks, light switches, night lights, humidifiers a more potential health hazard? Well, there's some sleep experts, quote unquote, that will say you can't have any light in the room whatsoever. You should sleep in a completely dark room. That's how we were meant to sleep. I just struggle with that. That's how we were meant to sleep when our ancestors slept under the stars. Certainly it wasn't completely dark. They did not have blackout curtains in their rooms. I mean, just look throughout history, and unless your ancestors had slept in a cave, there was light. It was probably light from a fireplace, trying to keep the place warm. So I just don't necessarily buy that analogy. But certainly if you are awake and it's keeping you awake, it can be a problem. You can solve the problem by using a sleep mask. That can be beneficial. Some people don't like wearing a sleep mask and that bothers them while they roll around and such. I don't mind the light from the Rife machine. I can see mine, but sometimes I will put a towel over it or something like that to block that light from the machine. Usually if you're having sleep problems, which this was addressed, somebody else had this question of sleep problems too. It's not so much for light in the room. It has to do with other things that are going on. A person can have cortisol problems. That's the primarily the cause of sleep issues. So let's talk about sleep issues. So if you're having trouble falling asleep, that's typically a melatonin problem. So melatonin is made in the brain and stored in this little gland in the brain called the pineal gland, and it's released when darkness comes. So it's the pineal gland releases releases melatonin when there's a diminished amount of light. So yes, you could say Yes, we are living in a totally different world. When it used to get dark, people didn't have as much lighting as we have now that are illuminating their house tremendously. So they're not getting pineal gland stimulation in order to get melatonin secretion. So they're not getting as much sleep as they used to. So in that sense, yes, too much light is a problem, but we're not talking about light in the bedroom. We're talking about just light in the whole household. We used to live up in the woods in 280 acres, completely absent of any electricity from any sources. We were off grid. This was years ago in the 90s. And we had kerosene lamps. Well, we didn't want to use all our kerosene. So in the wintertime, goodness, we'd go to bed with the kids at 8 o'clock and we'd get up with the sunrise and go to work again. So it was, that's how I think our ancestors probably slept. They got more sleep in the winter because the pineal gland secreted melatonin at an earlier time. In the summer, it stays light till 9:30, 10 o'clock in the summertime. And so most people don't go to sleep at the same time in the summer as they do in the winter. Maybe now they do because they illuminate their house with incandescent lighting, but back in the day they didn't. So yes, light does play a part of sleeping, but it's really the secretion of melatonin. Therefore, some people will take melatonin. Sometimes they don't make enough melatonin or their pineal gland is not secreting melatonin well. And you can get calcification of the pineal gland from all sorts of things. So sleep is going to be impaired. So if you're having trouble falling asleep, that's a melatonin issue. Can also be a stress issue too, because anxiety can cause that as well. Can also be there's lots of things that it can be. People have defects in their glutamine genes and they make a lot of glutamate. Glutamate is an excitatory neurotransmitter and it's hard for them to go to sleep at night. Those people probably should not eat any protein, after a certain time. That might be a help too. So taking melatonin. But there's another problem. People say they fall asleep just fine, but then they wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock, like this person in the previous question did, and then they can't get back to sleep. And their mind is racing and they can't get their mind off things. And it's almost like they have some OCD issues in the middle of the night. That's typically a cortisol issue, not a melatonin issue. Melatonin helps you fall asleep. It doesn't help you stay asleep. Cortisol helps you stay asleep. It gets a little technical, but your brain needs glucose at night, and you have used up all your glucose stores by about 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you have to release cortisol from your adrenal glands to break down the glucose from glycogen stores in your liver. So glycogen is a complex carbohydrate, the way we store glucose in our liver for need, especially at night. So cortisol breaks down that glycogen so our brain can stay alive at night. So when we're under a lot of stress, we're burning cortisol during the day, and we can have a deficiency of cortisol at night. And that's what wakes us up when we're full of anxiety and we're running basically off of glutamates at night and our mind is racing. So go back to a product like this one, the CortiClear, which is meant to help clear and balance cortisone, that can help taking that during the day. And then dealing with all the emotional issues that you might be dealing with as well. So there's different issues with sleep issues. And I know I made some videos about that at some point in time. My diet protocol requires that I do not eat dairy. I wanted to ask if dairy that is raw or the A2 dairy would be acceptable. So there's this A2 type gene that certain cows have that helps they can drink that dairy if they're lactose intolerant. Some people, even with casein intolerance, can drink milk from that type of cow and they don't have as much reaction to it. But this is not the case when we're talking about cancer. So cancer fed through dairy has nothing to do with how it's processed or pasteurized. Therefore, whether it's raw or not makes no difference whatsoever, nor the genetic makeup of the cow, because all the dairy, whether it's raw or pasteurized, or no matter what the genetic makeup of the cow, is going to have growth factors in it. So it has nothing to do with that. So if you're supposed to be off of dairy, eating raw dairy or raw cheese or any other type of, dairy products, is still going to be the same, even if it's goat dairy or sheep dairy, anything that's coming out of an udder is going to have growth factors in it. It has been at least 2 weeks now where I am only able to get short times of micro sleep. Oh, this is back to another sleep question. Most of the time I'll wake up after falling asleep for about a half hour. Sometimes it might be as long as 2 hours. Then I am awake for a few hours, then fall asleep again after a while. So this is very similar to what we're talking about. If you're able to fall asleep just fine, but then you wake up and you can't go back to sleep again, if it's only within a half hour, it still could possibly be a melatonin issue. So starting with melatonin might be your starting point for this person. But definitely if you're going wake up after a couple hours and can't go to sleep again, it's definitely a cortisol issue. So herbal tea is typically going to be like chamomile and some relaxing herbs that will help you relax and help your brain relax and fall asleep. But that's really not going to solve this problem. You really have to deal with that cortisol issue. I know that I am anxious. I don't know that I'm anxious about anything. I hadn't been in any pain at all until my foot started hurting again yesterday. That's what we didn't talk about. Pain can keep a person awake too. Or wake a person up too. So, but I would try something like the CortiClear. Our chat questions. Is the white sweet potato the same as the orange sweet potato? I don't know. You'll have to Google that and see what the glycemic index is on that. There's a lot of different varieties of hybridized vegetables that I'm not exactly sure on. You could just search that particular variety of potato and see what the glycemic index is. That's really what you're looking for. How fast does it break down to glucose? So that's what a glycemic index is. So it's indexed on glucose, breaks down into glucose immediately because it's glucose. That has a glycemic index of 100. And then, potatoes, just regular potatoes, blue potatoes, red potatoes, white potatoes, they have a glycemic index of, I think, 85. Sweet potatoes are way down low because it's a totally different family. It really shouldn't be called a potato. So, but the white potato, sweet potato, if it's in the sweet potato family, it probably has a fairly low glycemic index, so you're probably safe on that. I had a PET scan last Friday. Maybe results will explain abdominal and hip pain. Yes. And I am taking the homeopath for radiology and ran the Clearline and heavy metal foot baths. But I also had an iron infusion and am going to have 2 more the next 2 Thursdays. Should I refrain from the heavy metal detox because it could affect my iron transfusion? That's a good question. Maybe, that's a possibility. That's, I don't know the answer to that, but certainly maybe that might be a good thing just to avoid that this time. To stay away from that for a week or so. You don't want to be pulling out. So the line of thought is doing the heavy metal foot baths, is that pulling out iron? Well, iron is a heavy metal on the periodic table. So it's possible. Yeah, it's possible. So let's just avoid that. I've been doing TRS heavy metal detox for a week and have recently had an ache or pain in my shin overnight and now in my arm. I did have a ruptured Achilles tendon on that side and a broken wrist on the side of my arm hurts. Is it possible that this is a detox symptom? Yes, it is. It's very possible that it's a detox symptom. It is not uncommon that, metal. So you look at the periodic table. So if we pull up a periodic table, you'll see that here, oh, come on. Where the elements are. This will help us understand things a little bit better. Let's go to so periodic table of elements. So this is fun to look at sometimes, right? You have your different, there's hydrogen, helium, lithium, barium. This is sodium, magnesium. I don't know, can you see my cursor when I'm doing this? Can somebody let me know? Can you see my cursor when I'm moving it around on the slide?
Yes, yes.
Oh, good, all right. So, you can look at where's iron on this. Here's iron right here. So it is with these other minerals and things. And when you have, so calcium's over here, but calcium is put into bone when you have an injury, like a wound on a broken bone, or you have a a wounded tendon. How your body heals that tendon, you're going to have a greater amount of calcium laid down, but you're going to have manganese laid down and other minerals laid down in that bone. Well, there's a chance that you're going to have other heavy metals laid down in that bone if you have circulating heavy metals. So where do heavy metals go if you're exposed to aluminum and different lead and mercury, and here's lead right here. And where do those heavy metals go when you're exposed to it? There's mercury right there. There could go inside of the cell if your body doesn't get rid of it, but many times it will go into the bone. So that's where it ends up getting stored. So it can get released because your bones are living tissue. People think you just have calcium in there, they're just holding everything up, but calcium and minerals are going in and out of the bone constantly. Remember, your body is all about motion. So things are moving in and out of cells, in and out of bony tissue all the time. That's the danger of taking like the bone building drugs, like is it Zometa that they give injections to people because you might have the possibility of bone breakdown. Well, all it does is create a cellophane wrap around the periosteum of the bone, and it doesn't allow the bone to be living and active, so that bone can actually become more brittle. And there's danger to just trapping everything inside of the bone. One of the purposes of bone is to store minerals, so it buffers your blood. It buffers other tissues, so we can actually become acidic because we lose that buffering ability. Did you ever put together a video on GCMAF and Naglice? No, I'm sorry, and I will do that. I will get to that. Why does the Rife machine emit a fluorescent light from the bottom? Good question. Good question. I don't know why the F117 never did that. I don't know why he added that on the F122. I will ask him. Is there a Rife machine program for having low blood pressure to help race it? So if you have low blood pressure, how to increase blood pressure? I don't think so. There is heart building programs. Typically, if you have low blood pressure, you have, from a functional perspective, you have some weakness of your heart. So it can be weakness of your heart, fatigue of the heart. So from a nutritional standpoint, low blood pressure, you'd think of possible low thyroid gland. You'd think of possible need for heart tissue concentrates. Biotics Research probably makes the best one out there. I think it's cytosine H. I think that's what it is, cytosine H, to just give the heart more strength. A person can have low blood pressure if they just normally had fairly low to normal blood pressure, and now they're on a lot of flavonoids, green tea extract and such. So it's actually opening up your vessels a little bit more, so your blood pressure can drop even a little bit more so. But it can give you some shortness of breath and fatigue upon exertion that you want to address. I would say look at strengthening the heart. Hi, Dr. Connors. Is it okay to run my Rife bulb programs while laying on my EMF back? Yes. Yep. You can do those two things simultaneously. Any other questions? Nothing. Well, I guess we will end early today then. Do remember that you could jump on Monday's Zoom call with Anne as well. And all of that is on the member site. So you can jump on, and Anne said her numbers are growing. So that's just great. And anything she doesn't know, she asks me. Our offices are right next to each other. So thank you. I hope I feel better too. This is going around up in our area. A lot of people have this really bad cold. All right, we will see you guys next week. Again, know that I'll be praying for you guys, and ask that you just keep praying for us. All right, bye-bye.